Welcome to another episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? A place where creatives come together and talk about their process. And of course, we talk about books. And I'm your host, Karen E. Osborne, author of women's fiction, suspense, murder, historical fiction, Getting It Right, Tangled Lies, Reckonings, and on September 7th, True Grace comes out. And my guest today, it's Mitzy Sky, who I just have to say, I think her name, if she would let me, would be a character in a novel. I love her name. Hi, Mitzy.
Hi, Karen. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today. Yes.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that we've had a chance to speak. So, Mitzy is an award-winning poet. She's a blogger. It's beautiful blogs. I've seen it on her website. And the name of her book that she's going to share with us today, including reading a couple of poems, is Top of the Zinc Roof. Poems observed from behind the veil with a glimpse of the light. Oh, that just sounds beautiful. So before you read, I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sure.
So the first one is, how did you get here? What was your writing journey like?
Wow, my writing journey. It's been a process. I tell you, and I feel like I write to get things out that I wasn't
Mm.
able to say to out loud. And for instance, I remember being a child, people just saying, "You're so quiet, you're always smiling." I was growing up on the island, so I was always smiling. I was in the sunshine, it was beautiful. And I didn't have much to say, but I know that I always had thoughts, I was always observing, and I came to America when I was 8 years old, and I experienced a lot of violence, emotional, physical, sexual, um for education, all of the different things. And so when I just look to seek therapy for myself at 23 years old, I was just telling the therapist, I want to be a writer, I want to write a book, and they didn't pay me any attention. It was just, here's a diagnosis, here's some drugs. And 20 years later, 20 years later, I'm like, what am I doing? This is not working. I'm not nothing is happening from my life how I see my life to be. What's happening. So I actually started to pay attention to myself and pay attention to what's happening in my life. Friends came into my life that supported me, like the Good Samaritan. They just supported me and they didn't expect anything from me, but I expected something from myself. And the fact that they saw me, how I was seeing myself, that I was deserving of support, I started believing it. And and just started having that confidence to take risk and fall down and get back up, that I was not going to be alone. And so that really it changed all the stories that I sat there and I told therapists for years, a decade, all of my misfortunes, everything that happened to me. I wrote them all down and I called it a book. It was it was called Pruned, a Paved with Good Intention story. My son drew the artwork for me. I sent it out to a few places. I even sent it to a friend who's still a friend, thank God, because he read every single thought that I had in my head. That was not the nicest thoughts at all, and or things to say about oneself. But he read it and he's still my friend. But and he's a successful writer and advocate for education and all that kind of stuff. So um and so I wrote it. And what happened when I wrote all of that stuff, I put it down on a shelf when I after I read it, and I looked back and I said, oh my God, what is this? This is just a whole bunch of stream of consciousness stuff,
Mm.
that nobody should have read. you know so I put it down on the shelf, and what I noticed is that I stopped telling those stories. I stopped telling those stories. I stopped doing therapy. I stopped taking all those drugs. I started working to live, and because I had that support and that confidence, like, yeah, I could do this. I always wanted to. I didn't grow up with television, so in Jamaica. So when I saw my first movie on a big screen, I was just completely fascinated. So I wanted to make films. And so I actually went and learned at the television station like how to film and edit and do all that stuff. So I did that, and I made a video called Working to Live. It was successful. It ended up helping me get a job at a behavioral
Mm.
health organization, because at the time, everything that I knew was behavioral health and mental health. That's it. I was a conditioned, compliant mental patient. That's what I basically was, on disability and everything. And so they loved it, what I was saying. I shared all of their agencies all over the Southern Connecticut region where I live, and Working to Live. But the thing about it, what I discovered, it wasn't them. It was that I did something that I dreamt about like my whole life. I figured out how to do it. There was nobody. I didn't have that kind of childhood where you said, oh, I want to learn how to make movies, here, this is how you go and do it. No, I just thoughts in my head somewhere, know I love something, actually went to electronics school to learn electronics and did really well at it. Got top 3 in my first report card out of 36 people. So I know I could learn, but that's not, I know how everything worked behind the television, inside the television, but that's not what I wanted. So it was a slow process of figuring out
What
what
did
I
you
wanted,
really want?
what I
Yeah,
really
what
wanted.
you really want.
Yeah. So
Although, do you think that I've always thought that movies and movie making is uh, is a great tool for writers
yes.
because it teaches you how to be so visual. And when we're writing, we have to be visual, whether we're writing poetry or short stories or a novel, we have to have our readers see as well as understand. Did you find that your movie making skills helped you in your writing life?
Yes, it definitely helped me in my writing life. As a matter of fact, I one of my the first one of the things I got published in an anthology was a short screenplay called All Mind the Influencers. It was published in the anthology called Imagining Monsters, and it was based on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. For her
Mm.
200th anniversary was a program held at the Westport Library, and we went in there, sat in the library, and we created this thing. And I was able to create this visual thing that someone sat down to me and say, I had to research on it, found out who her friends were, her husband, everyone. And someone sat next to me and he said, is this a true story? I'm like, no, I made it up. It's completely made up. But it got up to finalists in the 2022 Bridgeport Film Festival. So it's really good. So it was encouraging. It was very encouraging.
Yes, that is excellent, excellent. So when did you decide poetry was your way?
Yes. In my teenage years, I'm from Jamaica originally, and in my teenage years, I admired Sister Nancy, Brigadier General, Shinehead, on Michigan, and Shinehead, Michigan, and Smiley, all of these rapping Jamaican rapper stuff. And so I learned how to do that, and had a crew
Mm.
of people that I made up rap lyrics to and rapped on the mic to music and did that at parties, and it was completely fun, to be the only girl on the team, and all that kind of stuff, and rapping on the mic. And it was something that women did not do, especially girls. I have horror stories, so I won't even go go there. But so but that's what I was doing. So that's at 16, 17. So by the time I'm 23, I have my daughter, and I'm in extreme poverty, and I'm dreaming of a better life. As a matter of fact, I got my daughter into a private school, like the best private school in the area where I live. And it started at $8,900 a year, and by the time she graduated 12th grade, it was $26,000 a year for this
Mm.
for this school. And so now I got to actually see what living well looks like. So even though and so I wanted it. So I was desiring it, and so I went to ask for help. That's why at 23 I went to ask for help. I want this. How help me do this. But and that's and so at the time, so even going through all of that, I'm like living two parallel life. One where my children is going to private school, I'm going to cocktail parties and country clubs and swimming pools with my kids, and yeah, and everything for myself. I'm going to the mental health center to they ask for help, but at the same time, the pain and suffering that's happening for me, I'm writing about it. I'm writing about it in songs. I'm writing about it in poetry. I'm letting it out, and I'm saying, you know, why is this happened to me? Like help. But this is like a lot
Yeah,
of my
yeah.
poems. When I sit and read my poems, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of this is help. And so when I sat to put this poetry book together, I was like, I don't want to talk about mental health diagnosis because I don't use diagnosis for myself or anything like that. I moved away from that. I own it that this is my life. This is what I did. And I talk about it because it's what it is, and people should be allowed to change and decide who they are. And so that's what I've done with my life. And so I was going to keep all of the, the ode to the tree and in this moment and all of the really good powerful ones that shows where my voice is, but I said, that's not going to work. I'm going to have to put everything in there. So I got all the ones back from 1996, 1998, and
Put
when
them
I
all
was,
together.
yeah.
Wow. So tell us how the title of this book, Top of the Zinc Roof, Poems Observed from Behind the Veil with a Glimpse of Light. So I think totally get, and I think our audience totally gets the poems observed from behind the veil with a glimpse of light. That part is so beautiful and clear. But where
Yes.
did the top of the zinc roof come from?
Yes, that's the growing up in Jamaica part. And that story, that story, I actually, it's in my first poem in the book, Grandma. The zinc roof. It was just a small board house we live in with a dirt kitchen floor. We washed our feet, went to bed, and at nighttime, the zinc roof. You can hear the rain falling on top of it. It's the sweetest music,
Mm.
beautiful, peace, most peaceful sleep you could have, sleeping in that environment. Trees, everything surrounding you in a little board house with a zinc roof was beautiful. But at the time when I was leaving Jamaica, um, I was not the kind of child who got beatings and things like that when I was in Jamaica. But before I left, my cousin Steve and I ate all the dumplings out of the chicken soup one Saturday, and my uncle was having company, and he said he was going to beat us, he was going to punish us, and he was going to cook food and we're going to have to eat all of it, and our stomach was so full and he would like basically torturing us, telling us, you're going to cook and make us eat that food. Our belly was that
Is
full.
there a poem about that in the book?
It's well, that's in the grandma. I mentioned it in the grandma poem. So when we're told, because like I said, I didn't grow up having television, so I didn't have an imagination to tell me television is taking me to this other country. I mean, the plane is taking me to another country. All I know is my yard to school to church, maybe to a festival once a year. um so for me, the plane was taking me and dropping me off on my rooftop, my zinc roof. That's where the plane was dropping me. And I was going to escape that beating that was coming to me. So I couldn't get out of there any quicker. So, so needless to say, no, planes do not drop you on your roof. I came to America. So for me, when I think of top of the zinc roof and think of all the poems of pain and suffering, and just and I look and I observe, it's like I've been sitting on top of that roof for a very long time, just observing, just like waiting to come down, um, waiting to join and fully engage in life.
Yeah. So choose one and let's hear it.
Okay. I'm gonna choose the wishy-washy woman first, because that's one of the ones when I was experiencing just not knowing myself. So it's called the wishy-washy woman. I'm tired of surviving, begging instead of living. I'm tired of being the wishy washy woman. I'm constantly defending myself and apologizing to you. Why can't you see me? I am my grandmother's child, and she would have starved to death before she begged for anything. I am not angry. You've never seen me angry. You don't know me well. You don't know me at all. Why you would take just a mere expression of my opinion as anger? Should I not speak? Should I not express myself? Should I allow you to continue to judge me? You're going to think what you want anyway, but I know who I am. I am the product of my grandmother Mum's love, her mother before that, her mother before that, and her mother before that. I see the light. I fed you what you needed for years. Like when I was angry with my mother, you ate it all up. You couldn't see me without asking. How is your mother? As if you cared. And when I responded negatively, you ran back to that square hole you live under. You hear what Mitzi said about her mother? I know she couldn't or didn't know how to love me. She abandoned me long before I came to America. But at least she showed me that that square hole you live under is hell. I strive for better. I'm the one that you love to have at your parties because with me there, you could be the best thing. How you get to fat? Where you get to fat go? Knowing damn well you hope that I stay that way so that you could continue to shine. With me down, you could be up. But if that's all you have nothing. I could fix my teeth or lose weight. Hell, I could have my breasts done on an installment plan. But what I've gained in here, you can never take away. You call me mad because I would go to therapy to overcome the negative impacts of my life as a child, but I see it as strong, not weak, to make sure my children never suffer as I did. And if they do just a little or a lot, they will know how to help themselves. I'm building a strong foundation that will last generations to come. You know, if you focus long enough on the thing you hate, you will become it. 20 years, 20 years of built up frustration, sadness, and loss. You can't see that. Emptiness, loneliness, wanting, longing, needing to be loved, needing to live. I'm tired of feeling guilty. Guilty about eating, guilty about my color, guilty for living. I'm tired of dying slowly, watching life pass me by, reacting instead of living. I deserve to live. I deserve to live, and I will live now.
Hmm, that was beautiful. Wow. That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
You're talking up to somebody who had a childhood of trauma, and I write to get my trauma out as well. That was beautiful and moving. Show us the cover.
This is the cover.
Yeah, isn't that gorgeous, everybody? Top of the zinc roof. And look at that bird just ready to fly, ready to fly. Thank you so much. One of the things we like to do
Before,
is, before we hang up, is to share some book recommendations. It could be poetry, it could be anything that you enjoy. Do you have a book you could recommend to our audience?
oh, I wanted to say the forward is by this person, Amber Chavis. She did a really great job at the forward. I read it every time I read it, I would cry because she saw me. If somebody to write your forward, and she saw everything that I was trying to say and what I wanted to give back. Um, a book that I would recommend. Oh wow, you know what? The thing is, I'm in the writing community, and I read just so many of my friends' book. I even have your book here.
I do that too. I write so many, I read so many friends' books.
And I have, and and now I'm afraid like if I say one, I want to say all of them. So but I do want to say the one that I just read. Well, first, the end of 2022 was just horrible, and so I wanted to start out 2023 with something fun and witty and just have fun. So I started out with The Brass Queen by Elizabeth Chadwick. It's Victorian age. It's it's gunslinging, women having creative James Bond style stuff and going on. It's just fun and witty. But at the same time, I was also watching a podcast, what I want to know, with Kevin P. Chavis, and I learned about this person here, Wes Moore.
Mm.
Wes Moore. So I put down The Brass Queen for a little while, and I read this the other Wes Moore, and I would recommend that for everyone to read that right there. And I guess I'm just because of the work that he's doing, and the compassion that he has to unite people, and look beyond the color of the skin, and even know the color of the skin exists, but know that everybody's worthy in each color skin that we have. Not to say that we're blind to color, but to actually see that we have color, and then everybody's worthy, and just to look at what happened to someone, instead of just labeling and throwing people aside, and so
Mm.
he saw this other person named Westmore that has his name, and he wanted to know what happened to that person,
Mm,
and he saw that what happened to that person could easily have happened to him. And so
wow.
that's so when I do my work and I write, and even though I'm in a good place that I could live in a great apartment and I could drive a nice car and I could have a job and make money, and that I could reunite with my children and they could forgive me that I just was, on the couch most of their childhood. I realize that people that are going through that right now, that could easily be me. So when I see someone hurting, it's like, there goes I, there goes I. It's never,
Yeah,
I see somebody walking and going up a hill with a shopping cart. I'm like, there goes I. I know that. I've done that. I know what that feels like, and I know that I'm a person and I know that I have hopes and dreams inside. So I respect that person. And so that's what Westmore did. And
that's beautiful. That we just need more of that. We need more compassion and more empathy and more seeing ourselves and others instead of difference. And yeah, that is great. This has been a lovely conversation, Mitzi. Thank you so, so much for joining me. I've really enjoyed meeting you and this conversation, and I hope all of you have as well. If they want to find you, the audience, now that you've got us all hooked, how do they connect with you?
Yes. Well, my website is mitzysky.com. And also I'm on Linktree, and so I have all the my social media links is there on
Uh,
Linktree, and so it's a Linktree Mitzy Sky. Yes.
Excellent, excellent. I hope that all of you will follow Mitzi. I hope you're already following me and that you will be with us again next week for the next episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you.